So Bernie Sanders wrote an article in Politico, and it's called How to Fix the Democratic Party. And basically what it's about is this article is not about what policies the politicians should push for to improve the lives of everybody, but this is about what can be done to reform the DNC and make the DNC respectable, or at the very least tolerable to the people who are supposed to be their goddamn base. So here's what he calls for. He says, first of all, we need to dramatically reduce the number of superdelegates. Now, on that front, I think that's Bernie even being maybe too kind, because he's saying dramatically reduce them and just make the superdelegates people who are like governors and stuff like that. In other words, get rid of all the lobbyists and all that bullshit. But he's just saying dramatically reduce them. I don't know why he wouldn't call for just eliminating them. I mean, they are, by definition, undemocratic. It's the party leaders giving themselves the opportunity to, in some cases, just totally override the will of the people, which is ridiculous. Because obviously the party insiders, when push comes to shove, we're going to always side with the other party insider, with the establishment candidate, because they are the establishment. So I don't even know why he's just calling for reducing the number when he should be calling for eliminating. You know, and look, this is the thing about Bernie. We all love Bernie. Bernie's fantastic, but sometimes I genuinely think it might be a little bit of him being naive. Like, for example, when he did the Unity tour with Tom Perez and the DNC. Well, Tom Perez was getting booed everywhere they went. Now, why was Tom Perez getting booed? Because, you know, he would say stupid shit and platitudes and cliches, lead with our values and put hope on the ballot and shit like that. And everybody knows he's full of shit, because the DNC was still taking corporate money. So they act like, yep, we're going to reform. This is the Unity Commission. We're going to do Unity tour. See, hey, look, I'm with Bernie, so aren't I good progressives? But all the progressives knew, hey, you guys are still taking corporate money, and now you're marching around and using Bernie as, like, you know, a figurehead, and you're the puppet master, and he's your puppet, and you're trying to march him out there so that, you know, it's a progressive veneer that you're trying to put over your shittiness. And everybody in the audience knew the deal. They knew everybody loves Bernie because Bernie really pushes for the populist left policies. And Tom Perez is just a fucking charlatan. So, you know, why would Bernie do that tour with Tom Perez when the DNC is still taking corporate money and they're not going to, you know, they show no signs of changing? Well, in Bernie's mind, he thinks, well, no, it's a genuine difference of opinion, and it's not necessarily that they're corrupt. It's that I can show them that my way is the right way. I think that's kind of naive, Bernie, which is why you have to do a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party, like Justice Democrats are doing. And you have to try third-party options. You can't do the kumbaya with the people who rigged it in the first place. You can't do kumbaya with people who still don't get the basic fact at this point that corporate money is the cancer in our system. So, and that's what I think here, it's the same thing. Like, oh, we should reduce the number of superdelegates. So just call for eliminating them. Why just reducing them? No, you should eliminate the superdelegates. You know, not, hey, we should make it less undemocratic. Just make it democratic. That's it. That's what you need to do. Okay, the second thing he says is open all the primaries. Look, that's, again, the Democrats love to say, oh, the Republicans and they're fucking gerrymandering and their voter ID laws and they're trying to suppress the vote and that's fucked up. Democrats say this all the time. Hey, they're not in favor of more people voting. The Republicans aren't. They want to do voter suppression and keep the numbers down because that's when they win. Yeah, but guess what? That's what establishment Democrats do too. Establishment Democrats, when they're up against progressives, what they do is, oh, we need to limit the turnout here because when we limit the turnout in a Democratic primary, the establishment Democrats are more likely to win. When you get bigger turnout in a Democratic primary, the populist leftists, the progressives, are more likely to win. So the same shit that they yell at the Republicans for in general elections is the same shit that they do in the primary to try to get the establishment candidate through and screw over the populist leftist. So Bernie's saying, no, open the primaries. You know, allow independents into the process. And then he brings up New York as a great example. I mean, in New York, you had to change if you were a Republican and you wanted to vote for Bernie in the primary, you had to change your party 6 months before the election. And by the way, if you think, well, come on, there's no Republicans who are going to vote for Bernie anyway, so that's, you know, who cares? Not true. My fucking brother-in-law registered as a Republican, wanted to vote for Bernie in the primary, couldn't because he didn't change his party 6 months before it. When I went to go vote in the primary, a kid showed up, you know, they asked him, they ask him his name and all that stuff, and he goes, hey, look, I don't know if I'm registered as an independent or a Democrat. That's what he said. I don't know if I'm registered as an independent or a Democrat, but I'd like to vote in the primary. So they go through the papers and they go, oh, you're registered as an independent. Sorry, you can't vote. This is the future that the establishment Democrats want? And the answer is yes, because it helps their candidates. That helped Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. So here's this kid, an independent, going to vote in the Democratic primary, likely for Bernie. And because he's an independent, he's a left-leaning independent, but because he's an independent, they go, sorry, you can't vote here. So Bernie goes, open up the primary so that you make it more democratic. But of course, they're against that too. The third thing he says is similar to the second thing here. Open up the caucuses to people who aren't physically there. Because again, we want a more open process with more people involved, because that's what people who are in favor of democracy should be in favor of. And then the fourth thing is, he says, the DNC needs budget transparency. So right now, you give to the DNC, and then they don't know where the money's going. I mean, it's already the case that they're getting a tremendous amount of money from big money donors, which is questionable off the bat, because, gee, who are they going to listen to? The person who gave $5 or the person who's given tens of thousands of dollars? But then, where exactly they spend the money, they don't tell you. So one of the things that happened, for example, is after the 2012 election, when Obama won, usually the DNC, or if it was the RNC, whatever, they scale down because they go, hey, it's not an election year, so we're going to scale down. We're not going to pay all these consultants, all these Democratic strategists. That's for when the next election comes around, we'll put them on the payroll. But what happened with the DNC is Debbie Wasserman Schultz didn't stop paying Obama's strategists and consultants. Well, why? Because it's a ruse. Because they were hosing you. They were using you to get rich is what they were doing. And so the DNC went massively into debt. One of the reasons they went to debt is they didn't fucking scale down during the off-election year. And then that's one of the things that led to Hillary Clinton swooping in and saying, oh, no, it's cool, don't worry. I, Hillary Clinton, in my campaign, we will fund the DNC. But in order to fund the DNC, they kept them on a starvation diet, which means they didn't give them nearly enough money, just enough to keep going. And of course, in return, Hillary Clinton and her campaign got to hire and fire people, got to have the last word, got to approve press releases. This was the scandal that Donna Brazile was talking about. Oh, shit, it is true that the Hillary Clinton campaign, was the DNC. They were linked. So what Bernie's saying here is, hey, if we have budget transparency, that won't happen. Because then the people who are contributing will go, whoa, it's an off-election year. Why are you paying millions and millions of dollars to all these people who are doing nothing? So that's what Bernie's calling for. I think Bernie's exactly right. But yet again, this is another test. This is another test of how serious are you, DNC? And that's what Bernie repeatedly says. How serious are you? Because if they don't do these things, this is the bare minimum, son. This is the bare minimum. And if they can't do these things, then like I said, they're totally hopeless, And that's why I'm not in favor of the kumbaya bullshit. I'm in favor of a hostile takeover. Because we want to make the DNC stand for what it was supposed to stand for all along. We want to make the DNC Justice Democrats, New Deal Democrats. So in other words, Democrats who are unapologetically in favor of Medicare for all and free college and a living wage and ending the wars and legalizing marijuana and stopping warrantless spying. Like all the things the Democratic Party should have been stood for all along, we want to make them stand for that. Well, they're not going to do it if you just hold hands with them and say, oh, let's compromise. No, there's some things that are not debatable. There are some things where, oh, if you don't believe that, then get the fuck out. So, that's the way to do it, and this is another test, because if they fail this test, like I said, I wouldn't give a fucking penny to the DNC in the current situation, and I think progressives aren't, which is why they're struggling massively when it comes to fundraising. But this is a test. Are they going to begin to reform, or are they going to spit in everybody's eye again? But what's amazing is how out of touch many of the people in the DNC are, where they're genuinely unaware of how much they're despised by their own base. And it's politics 101. You can't win without your base. And instead of scrambling to do everything possible to get their base back and to reform, What they're doing is doubling down on the corporate cash, doubling down on the corruption, and making it obvious. So Bernie keeps giving them opportunities, man. He keeps telling them, look, hey, I'm the most popular politician in America. Do this, this, and this, and then you will be popular too. And they're like, yeah, no. Because they care more about their donors than they do about their voters, and that's clear.